Hey everyone, welcome to Craft Central Designs. My name is Dwynn, and this is the first of a series of videos transforming Dollar Tree's shore living items into something beautiful. This is my vibe, everyone. I have lived on the east coast of Florida for many years, and beach decor is my specialty and absolute favorite. I have lots of creative, fun ideas for you, so stay with me to see them for my shore living DIY series. Starting with this wood cutout seahorse from Dollar Tree, and I picked up these beautiful napkins at Home Goods. However, you could probably find them at Marshall's or TJ Maxx as well. For this project, I'm using Mod Podge, some Snow White Waverly chalk paint, utensils to apply them, and we need some parchment paper, which I purchased on Amazon, but I'm sure you could pick it up at any craft store. And of course, the seahorse that I got at Dollar Tree. I used this mini Cricut heat press, which I absolutely love. I'm trying this new method of applying Mod Podge to an item with a napkin for the first time, and I am very excited to see the outcome. And there's that seahorse that right now looks very plain, but soon it will be very colorful. All right, so I'm just going to protect my surface here because I'm going to paint this seahorse white. I do this because I don't want to see any of those lines of the seahorse from under the or through the napkin that I'm going to be applying. So better to be safe than sorry. I'll just apply a good coat of Waverly Snow White chalk paint, and that will alleviate the risk of that problem of anything showing through the napkin. So I give a quick coat, taking that paint out to the edges, and I want the sides painted as well, so I completely cover that seahorse. And now I'm going to take some Mod Podge, and I'm going to put a nice, generous coat of Mod Podge all over the seahorse once the paint is dried. Be sure to get the Mod Podge all the way out to the edges. We're going to completely cover this with a nice, even coat of Mod Podge. Then we're going to let it completely dry. We're not going to apply the napkin on the damp Mod Podge. We're going to let it completely dry. And as I said, this is a new method that I'm trying out for applying a material such as a napkin to a surface. And luckily, this napkin just fit this seahorse. This napkin is so pretty. I fell in love with it immediately at Home Goods. And here I am struggling to separate the napkin. You only want the top ply, not both plies. Okay, so you separate the napkin. You could do it easier if you just take a little piece of tape, which I didn't do at the time. But anyway, I want that napkin to sit very even and straight on that seahorse because it's a very tight fit. It just barely fits. Now I'm going to take my parchment paper and put it on top. Now I did mention that the Mod Podge has to be completely dry. So now I'm going to take my little Cricut heat press, which I love. Oh my gosh, this is such a fun thing to have. It's my new toy, my new craft toy. I love it. But anyway, I set it on medium, and now I'm just going to go completely over that surface of that seahorse. Now that my Mod Podge is all dry, my napkin is applied, my parchment paper on top of that. Now, in order to feel the edges of the seahorse, I had to take my fingers and follow along the edge of the seahorse because I couldn't see it well underneath there. So I had to basically follow it with my fingertips because I wanted to get all the way out to the edge of each of those lines of that seahorse, which was pretty scalloped. Right, there's a lot of curves and edges to that seahorse. So I go completely over the entire seahorse with my little Cricut mini press. And then I go back over it one more time because I just want to be sure that I've reached out to all of the edges and through the entire seahorse. Now this heat press method actually reactivates the Mod Podge, and that's what's creating the adherence of that napkin to the seahorse, and it works like a charm. Oh my gosh, I am in love with this method. It just adhered so beautifully. So now what I'm going to do is just take my hands and just gently smooth out across the seahorse. But I'm now going to cut out around the edges of the seahorse. Now, as I mentioned, this seahorse has a lot of curves and edges that I have to go around with my nail file. I use a nail file, by the way. Some people use sandpaper or a sanding block. I like using something smaller, so I have that ability to get into all those little curves and edges. And another thing that I found really helpful on a piece like this with so many curves and edges was to just cut little slits along the edge. Like right now I'm just showing you how beautifully that nail file worked on the edge there. But back to what I was saying, I cut little slits all around those very curvy areas, and I found that easier to do that little sanding off of those edges with that nail file. And look at this. Oh my gosh, I love this. And that napkin was so perfect on there. And I'm explaining to you there with my scissors how I got those nice curvy edges to be so smoothed out with that nail file. Love it. Now I have picked up this plaque or sign, if you will, from Dollar Tree. That seahorse may or may not end up on that sign. We will see. And so I also picked up one of these seashell cutouts, wood cutouts, which is very plain at this point. Now it has 2 little holes, which I spackled. I also spackled that one little hole in the top of the seahorse as well. I just used a little bit of spackling. I just don't want to apply that napkin and then realize, oh my gosh, I could see the hole. So I just spackled it. And I'm going to do the same thing with the seashell. I'm going to apply a coat of Waverly Snow White chalk paint, and as well the same method of layering that Mod Podge on this seashell, because I'm going to do exactly the same thing on the seashell that I did on the seahorse. When I pried that little starfish off, it left a little indentation, so I just used a little bit of sandpaper to sand that off. I didn't want to see that through the napkin. All right, so now we're going to apply this napkin, which I also got at Marshall's. I'm sorry, Home Goods. Same difference. I frequent all of them, so you can pick up the most cool things that you can actually DIY with at those stores, especially Home Goods. All right, so this napkin, by the way, is really much more vibrant and pretty in person than it shows on the video. It had really beautiful blues. All right, so now I've separated my napkin. Once again, I didn't have a piece of tape to help me, so I had to do that off camera. And I'm going to separate the top layer of that napkin from the bottom. I just use those bottom layers for cleanup so that nothing goes to waste. And now I'm going to set that napkin right down on that shell. And now what was really great about this napkin was I was able to see the delineation of the edges of that seashell. So it made it a little bit easier in the pressing process. So I'm going to place it exactly where I want it. And I'm going to put the parchment paper on top. And I have my Cricut mini press all ready to go on a medium setting. I have everything all smoothed out. I'm a little bit anal. I know when I do projects, everything has to be just so precise. Okay, so I'm going to go over this shell with my mini Cricut press, which I think I mentioned I love. I go all the way out to the edges. Again, I am using my fingers to just really accentuate the line of that shell to be sure I'm going all the way out to the very edges with my little press. I go all over the entire shell once, and then I go back over it one more time just to be sure that I've reactivated that Mod Podge underneath. And as I said, this method works like a charm. It is fantastic. Now, of course, you can only do this on a flat surface, but think of the possibilities, all the DIYs you could do that you would be doing on a flat surface. I got my Amazon mini Cricut heat press on Amazon, by the way. Okay, now we remove the parchment paper, and oh my gosh, that napkin is beautifully adhered to that wood cutout shell. Just beautiful. As you can see there, no bubbles, no ripples, smooth and flat. Beautiful. Now, of course, going to cut out around my entire shell. And just as I did with my seahorse, I'm showing you here how I cut those little slits that I was talking about. I find this easier when I go to use the nail file to work along the edges to remove that excess napkin. And again, when you're using this nail file or sandpaper or whatever method you choose or whatever tool you choose to use, be sure you're only applying it the edge to the edge on the downward motion. Don't saw back and forth, so to speak. Only apply the file in the downward motion. Now I have this galvanized shell. And now obviously I would not be able to use the heat press on this shell because it has, it's not a flat surface. But I am going to apply the napkin to this shell. The same napkin that I used on the seahorse. I applied a layer of Snow White chalk paint, and I applied a layer of Mod Podge. And now what I'm going to do, rather than to use the heat press, I'm going to use my fingers, and I'm going to go around the entire shell and smooth out that napkin, pressing very lightly, and I'm just feeling my way through the entire shell, all those lines and grooves, very gently. You see I'm going up and down the lines of that shell with my fingertips, very lightly. And this requires patience and a little bit of time, but weirdly, I just love doing this part. I just love smoothing out the napkin on the shell. I'm a diehard crafter, so I have the patience of who knows what. When I'm crafting, I don't know, I think a train could go through the room and I would keep working. I'm really crazy like that. I'm a crazy crafter. Slight exaggeration on the train, but you get the idea. All right, now see how I'm taking my fingers and going along the lines, going all the way out to the edges. Now this Mod Podge is wet, obviously. I think I neglected to mention that. You apply your napkin to dry Mod Podge on the other two items, but on the shell, of course, it has to be wet in order for that napkin to adhere. I'm not sure if I mentioned that, but I'm mentioning it now. A nice generous layer of Mod Podge all the way out to the tips of that shell, and then you just apply the napkin. Separate the two layers of the napkin, and here you have this galvanized shell completely transformed. I went around turned it over, pressed from the opposite side to be sure that all of my napkin was pressed up against the edges of that shell. And again, I'm obsessing over the lines of that shell. I really wanted the delineation of that shell to show. And now we've returned, while that's drying, to the other shell. Now I noticed that there was just this vague delineation of the lines that were in that original wood cutout shell, and I wanted to do something to create definition to this shell. So I decided to place string for definition. Now you've seen me do this before, and you've seen me use this glue applicator that I use for quilling. It has Elmer's glue inside. This is absolutely perfect for applying something like string. I picked up that colored string at Dollar Tree. Never walk by string. If you see it there, pick it up. You never know when you could use it for a purpose just something like this. I've used it previously. You've seen me use it on my burlap bunny and my Easter bunny wreath. If you follow my channel, you saw me use it before. I love the glue dispenser. It's in the quilling materials aisle at Hobby Lobby, near the Cricut supplies and the stickers. So I put my nice stream of thin layer of glue, and I apply my string to it. And I'm just going to wrap those end pieces right around the edge of the shell. And I'm going to go through this entire shell applying the string to delineate the lines of that shell. And you have to look closely, but hopefully you'll be able to see those lines through the napkin, if you use a napkin, that is. But I can see them through there. It's very vague, but enough so that it really helps me to place the string. So I just use my glue applicator and I follow the line on the wood cutout, and I'm going to place my string there. Run my finger along it to press it down. I ended up putting all of my strings on, and then I cut the ends after I was all finished, and then just glued the ends over the edge of the shell. This looks so pretty in the end. And there I am obsessing over my string, but I like everything straight and neat and perfect. And you can see there the effect that it has. It really makes a difference. And we're back to that little galvanized shell. And I went around with my file and I did all of the edges. I cut my little slits, which helped me to get around all those little curves. And notice how I just apply that file on the downstroke, or the motion of moving the file up and down. I only press against the shell or the edge when I'm going downward. If that makes sense, you can see what I'm doing there. And the edges came out really, really nice on this as well. Really, really nice. Look how pretty. This galvanized shell has a whole new look. And it's so pretty. And you can see all those grooves. Now, I bet you can guess what I'm going to do here. Yes, I'm going to apply string for more delineation. Only this time I'm going to use white. And I use my little applicator again. And I just go up and down the lines of that shell and apply that string. And it goes on just beautifully with that glue applicator that I love so much. Wait till you see how this looks in the end. It is so pretty. And I take the string and just do the edges, mostly at the end, fold them over. Now there's quite a bit of lines on this shell, including some lines at the bottom there by my thumb. You'll see them when you're applying the string. Obviously, you press them out when you do your Mod Podge napkin application. This looks really pretty with the white string. I think this was a great addition to this piece. Anytime you can create more delineation, usually works out better for a project. So I'm going to complete all of those lines of the shell, and here it is. Oh my gosh. I love this. Oh my goodness. I just think it's so beautiful. And here we have the original, not so beautiful, next to the beautiful. Oh, I just love it. It's so pretty. It's just beautiful. As I said. Sorry, I get carried away. I love this. All right, so I might and I might not put these two together because you know how I love to mix patterns. And what in the world am I going to do with this shell? Maybe you have a few ideas. There's little Miss Savannah, my Labradoodle. Look at her eyelashes fluttering in the fan wind. Oh my God, she's adorable. And back to our finished products. Okay. So here we have the 3 items we have done thus far. The beautiful transformed starfish, if I can speak, by merely the application of a napkin, a galvanized seashell, also transformed into something beautiful with a napkin and string, and a simple wood shell cutout, now colorful and defined. What will I do with these items? Perhaps a beach-themed wreath or a wall sign? There are numerous creative possibilities. You will have to watch my series using shore living items from Dollar Tree to see what I ultimately do with these items. What would you do with these items? Leave your ideas in the comment box below. I would love to know your ideas for these items, or your guess as to what you think I might do with these items. So much fun. Love beach decor. In the meantime, if you like what you see on my channel, please subscribe, and as well, hit the like button. There's some fish. What do you think I'm going to do with those? And as always, I love receiving your comments. So I hope you will look forward to and return for the remainder of my beach-themed decor DIY series. I hope you're curious what I'm going to do with these, as well as many other items that I picked up at Dollar Tree to transform. So until next time, take care.